My name is Rachel Carter. I'm 32 years old. And until recently, I believed I had learned how to survive anything. I thought 6 years in the army had already broken me in every way that mattered, that whatever was left was manageable. I was wrong.
Awesome.
The text came in at 10:17 a.m. Short, casual, almost cheerful. Hey, I called and canceled your therapy appointment today. You don't need it anymore. You need to toughen up. Let's use the time to check out reception venues. Love you. I read it once, then again, and then a third time, slower. Like maybe if I changed the rhythm of how I processed the words, they would rearrange themselves into something less intentional. They didn't. I sat on the edge of the bed, still in my work uniform, boots unlaced, fingers resting loosely around my phone. Not angry. Not yet.
Just quiet.
That same kind of quiet I used to feel before a mission briefing, when everything inside you goes still, not because you're calm, but because your brain is shifting into something colder, more precise, more honest. I served 6 years, 2 deployments. I don't talk about what I saw, not because I can't, but because some things don't belong in language. They belong in the spaces between breaths, in the way your body flinches before your mind catches up, in the nights when sleep doesn't come and your ceiling becomes a screen you never asked to watch. When I got out at 26, I wasn't okay. That's the simplest way to say it. I drank too much, couldn't keep a schedule, jumped at every loud sound like my nervous system was stuck on high alert. Fireworks, car backfires, a dropped pan in the kitchen. Every noise felt like a memory trying to drag me backward. The VA diagnosed me with PTSD. No surprise there. What was unexpected was what came after. Therapy. Her name was Dr. Harris. And she didn't fix me. She didn't erase anything. What she did was sit with me in the wreckage and teach me how to live there without letting it consume me. Cognitive processing therapy. EMDR. Long sessions that felt like peeling skin off memories I'd buried deep enough to pretend they didn't exist. There were no breakthroughs that felt cinematic. No dramatic moments. Just slow, painful progress. Inch by inch. Over 2 years. Until one day, I realized I could breathe again without feeling like I was borrowing air. By the time I met Daniel Brooks, I was stable. Not perfect, but steady. I had a job as a warehouse supervisor, made decent money, had a routine, and every other Tuesday at 4:30 p.m., I sat in that same beige office and did the work. Because maintenance matters. You don't stop treating something just because it stops screaming. I met Daniel at a barbecue. He was easy to like, confident, warm, the kind of man who made conversations feel effortless. He worked in sales. Good money, good smile, the kind of presence that filled a room without trying too hard. We clicked fast. Too fast, maybe. Looking back now, I think I mistook comfort for safety. I told him about my PTSD on the third date. Not vaguely, not softened, clearly. I told him what it looked like on bad days. The insomnia, the nightmares, the need to leave crowded places sometimes. I told him this wasn't temporary. This was something I would manage for the rest of my life. He looked at me and said, "I think it's strong that you're getting help." That sentence, that was the moment I started to fall. For a while, he played the part perfectly. He asked about my sessions, gave me space when I needed it. Once, after a minor car accident triggered a flashback, he held my hand in silence in a parking lot and didn't ask a single question. I thought, he understands. Then we got engaged, and something shifted, not all at once. Not enough to name, just small things. He started commenting on my therapy schedule. "Didn't you just go? Every other Tuesday." The same schedule I'd had for years. Suddenly it was a problem. Then it became about money. $30 a month in copays. We should be putting that toward the wedding. $30. I said no. That should have been a boundary. Instead, it became a negotiation. Then came the comparisons. Other veterans move on. My cousin served, and he doesn't need therapy. I didn't argue. Not because I agreed, but because something inside me hesitated. Like maybe I had to defend my right to heal. 3 months before the wedding, we were at his parents' house. Sunday dinner. Normal. Safe. His father asked me how I'd been. Genuine question. I said I'd had a good therapy session that week. Simple. Casual. Daniel laughed from across the table. "She's still doing the therapy thing. I keep telling her she doesn't need it anymore." The room went quiet. His father frowned slightly. His mother looked down at her plate, and I felt it. That subtle shift. That moment where something private had just been exposed. Minimized. Turned into a joke. His father spoke carefully. "Therapy is important. Let her take care of herself." Daniel rolled his eyes. Actually rolled his eyes. And I said nothing. I stared at my plate and let the moment pass. I told myself it wasn't worth a scene. I told myself it wasn't a big deal. I told myself a lot of things that sounded reasonable and felt wrong. 2 weeks later, he canceled my therapy. I stared at the message again. Then I typed back, "Therapy saves lives." He replied with a laughing emoji. A laughing emoji. I don't remember standing up. I don't remember grabbing my keys. But I remember the feeling. That shift. That quiet, controlled clarity. I called the clinic. Explained the situation. Rescheduled the appointment. 5 p.m. Same day. And that evening, I sat in that beige chair, looked at Dr. Harris, and told her everything. The comments. The escalation. The dinner. The message. The emoji. All of it. She listened. Like she always does. Carefully. Without interrupting. When I finished, she asked one question. "What do you want to do?" I didn't hesitate. "Not this time. I want to end the engagement." She nodded slowly. Then she said something I will never forget. "That might be the healthiest decision you've made in 3 years." I drove home in silence. No music. No distractions. Just the sound of my own breathing. Steady. Certain. When I opened the apartment door, Daniel was at the dining table. Laptop open. Wedding plans scattered everywhere. Napkin samples, color palettes, seating charts. He looked up smiling, like everything was normal, like nothing had shifted. I closed the door behind me, and for the first time, I didn't feel uncertain. I didn't feel afraid. I didn't feel like I needed permission to take up space in my own life. "Daniel," I said quietly, "we need to talk." He didn't look up right away. Just clicked something on his laptop, adjusted one of the color swatches like it mattered more than the air in the room, then finally glanced at me with that easy, practiced smile. "Is this about the therapy thing?" he asked. Because I already said I was sorry. I stood there for a second, let the words settle. He hadn't said sorry. Not once. Not in the message. Not when I got home. Not in any version of reality that actually existed. "I don't remember you apologizing," I said calmly. He waved a hand, like details were optional. "I meant to. Same difference." Same difference. I walked a little further into the room, set my keys down on the counter with deliberate care. "No," I said, "it's not the same difference." He sighed, leaned back in his chair. "Rachel, come on, it's not a big deal. I was trying to help. You're stuck in this loop and someone needed to snap you out of it." A loop? That's what he called it. 3 years of rebuilding my mind. A loop. "You canceled a medical appointment," I said, my voice still even, "without my consent." "It's not medical," he shot back immediately. "You sit in a chair and talk. That's not medicine." There it was. Not subtle anymore. Not softened. Just clear. I felt something inside me settle into place. Not anger. Not even hurt. Just clarity. "There's not going to be a wedding," I said. The words didn't echo. They didn't need to. They just landed. He blinked. Then he laughed. Not real laughter. The kind people use when they think you're bluffing. "Okay," he said, shaking his head. "Very funny. Sit down." "I'm not joking." That got his attention. The smile slipped. "Just slightly." "Rachel," he said slowly, like he was explaining something to a child. "You're being dramatic." "I'm being clear." His jaw tightened. "This is because of one text?" "No," I said. "It's because of what that text showed me." He stood up now, pushed the chair back harder than necessary. "You're seriously going to throw away everything we've built over something this small?" "It's not small," I said quietly. "It's the first time you stopped pretending to respect me." That hit. I saw it. A flicker of something defensive crossing his face. "I respect you," he said quickly. "I'm trying to make you stronger. I don't need you to decide what strength looks like for me." "You're not even trying to move on," he snapped. "Other people deal with their past. They don't cling to it forever." Cling. That word landed heavier than anything else. Because it wasn't misunderstanding. It was judgment. Cold, precise, deliberate. "I'm not clinging to anything," I said. "I'm managing something that doesn't disappear just because it makes you uncomfortable." He scoffed. "There it is, always an excuse." Excuse. I nodded slowly. Not because I agreed, but because I understood. Finally. "You think this is a choice," I said. "You think I could just wake up one day and decide to be fine." "I think you could try harder," he shot back. Silence stretched between us. Thick. Heavy. Final. "I have been trying," I said quietly. "Every single day." He shook his head, pacing now. "This is insane. We've sent out invitations. My mom already bought her dress. We've put down deposits." "I know," I cut in. "And I'll cover my share." He stopped. That wasn't the response he expected. "You'll what?" "I'll cover my half of the costs we can't get back," I said. "I'm not leaving you with that." For a moment, he just stared at me, like he was trying to recalibrate. Like the script he had in his head didn't include this version of me. "You're serious," he said finally. "Yes." Something shifted in his face. The frustration cracked. and something else rushed in to replace it. Tears. Fast, immediate, almost too fast. Rachel. His voice broke. You can't do this to me. There it was. Not us. Me. You can't just walk away, he said, stepping closer, reaching for my arm. We have a future. We planned this. I gently pulled my arm back. We planned something based on who I thought you were, I said. That's not fair, he said, shaking his head. You're overreacting. All couples fight about boundaries. This isn't a boundary issue, I said. This is you deciding you get to control my health. I wasn't controlling you, he snapped. I was helping you. By canceling my treatment. By pushing you to grow up, he shouted. The words hung in the air. Sharp. Ugly. Unavoidable. I took a slow breath. I watched people die, I said quietly, and it broke something in me. He opened his mouth. I didn't let him speak. Therapy is how I live with that, I continued, not how I hide from it. His expression flickered. For a second, just a second, I thought maybe something had landed. Then, I just don't think you need it anymore, he said. And just like that, it was gone. That brief moment of possibility, replaced by the same certainty, the same dismissal. That was the moment I knew. There was nothing left here to fix. I do need it, I said, and I need a partner who understands that. I understand plenty, he muttered. No, I said. You tolerate it when it's convenient, and you try to erase it when it's not. He looked at me like I'd just insulted him, like I was the one being unreasonable. I can't believe you're doing this, he said. I can, I replied. That stopped him. Not because it was loud, but because it was true. He cried after that, for almost an hour. Real tears this time. Messy, loud, desperate. And I stayed. Not because I was unsure, but because I'm not someone who walks away from pain, even when it's no longer mine to carry. I sat on the edge of the couch while he unraveled in front of me, and I didn't change my mind. Not once. That night he packed a bag, said he needed space, went to his mother's house. I didn't stop him. The next morning my phone rang. His mother. Of course. I let it ring twice before answering. Hello? Her voice came sharp and immediate. I always knew you weren't ready for something like this. No greeting. No hesitation. Just judgment. I'm sorry, I said evenly. Men. People with your issues, she corrected herself smoothly, shouldn't be making commitments they can't keep. There it was. Clean. Polished. Cruel. Your son canceled a medical appointment without my consent, I said. This isn't a misunderstanding. It's not medical, she said dismissively. It's talking. Sitting in a chair and talking is not treatment. I closed my eyes for a second. Not in frustration, just recognition. This didn't come from nowhere. He learned this somewhere. I'm not debating this with you, I said. The engagement is over. A pause. Then, if you do this, she said coldly, you will owe us. We've spent thousands. I'll cover my share of the deposits, I said. Send me an itemized list. You'll cover all of it, she snapped. This is your fault. No, I said, it isn't. She hung up. I stared at the phone for a moment, then set it down. And for the first time since all of this started, I felt something close to peace. The next week was messy. He came back 3 times, each time a different version of the story. First visit. I'm sorry, he said, but not for what he did. Just generally, vaguely, like the word itself should fix everything. Second visit. You're overreacting. Everyone has disagreements like this. Minimizing. Rewriting. Third visit. He brought his best friend. Backup. She sat on my couch like she belonged there. You know he gave up a lot to be with you, she said casually. Not everyone would take on this kind of baggage. I looked at her, really looked. At the confidence. The certainty. The complete lack of awareness. You can leave, I said. She blinked. Excuse me? You can leave my apartment. She scoffed. See, this is what he means. The aggression. Asking you to leave my home is not aggression, I said calmly. It's a boundary. Daniel stood there, silent. He didn't correct her. Didn't defend me. Didn't even look uncomfortable. He just let it happen. That was the last confirmation I needed. They left. I locked the door behind them. And the next morning, I changed the locks. Pam. The wedding cancellations came next. Numbers. Contracts. Deposits that disappeared into silence. Venue. Catering. Photographer. Thousands of dollars reduced to consequences. I paid my share. Without argument. Without regret. Because money can be rebuilt. But self-respect? That's harder to recover once you trade it away. The invitations had already been sent. 120 people. Friends, family, acquaintances. Witnesses to something that no longer existed. I sent one message. Simple. Clear. The wedding has been called off. Thank you for your understanding. No explanation. No drama. Just truth. He told a different story. Of course he did. In his version, I had a breakdown. I couldn't handle commitment. I was unstable. Getting worse. He had been walking on eggshells. That phrase, it almost made me laugh, because he took something real, something people actually experience, and twisted it into a weapon.
Aggie.
I lost about $3,600, a few friends, and an illusion. And somehow, I felt lighter. 3 weeks later, I realized something I hadn't fully accounted for. Ending the engagement didn't mean the story was over. It just meant the tone changed. Daniel didn't go online. He didn't post anything dramatic. No vague quotes, no public accusations. He was smarter than that. Instead, he went quiet in the way that spreads faster. Person to person, conversation to conversation. Carefully curated, controlled. In his version, I wasn't someone who had drawn a boundary. I was someone who had snapped. Someone unstable. Someone who refused to get better. Someone he had tried to help until I pushed him away. He even used that word again. Help! At first, it stayed in the background. A comment here, a question there. A friend asking, a little too casually, "Hey, are you doing okay?" Not in a kind way, in a checking for damage way. I ignored it, because I had already decided something important. I wasn't going to chase my own reputation. People who needed an explanation weren't my people. Then he crossed a line. A real one. It was a Tuesday morning. I was at work, walking the warehouse floor, checking inventory reports, answering questions from my team. Normal. Steady. The kind of normal I had fought hard to rebuild. One of the front office staff approached me, a woman named Karen. She looked hesitant. "Hey, Rachel," she said quietly. "Can I talk to you for a second?" Something in her tone made my stomach tighten. "Yeah," I said. "What's up?" She glanced around, then lowered her voice. "Someone called the front desk earlier, asking about you." I felt it immediately. That subtle shift, that internal alert system flipping on. "What did they say?" I asked. "She said she was concerned about a safety issue," Karen replied, "about one of our employees." A pause. Then, "She meant you." For a second, everything went very still. Not chaotic, not emotional, just sharp, focused. "What exactly did she say?" I asked. Karen shook her head slightly. "I didn't transfer the call," she said. "It didn't feel right. She wouldn't give her name, but..." She hesitated. "The caller ID matched a number you've had listed before. I thought you should know first." "Daniel, of course." I nodded once. "Thank you," I said. And then I turned around and walked straight to HR. I didn't wait, didn't think about it, didn't try to handle it quietly. Because this wasn't personal anymore. This was professional. And he had just stepped into territory that could cost me everything. The HR manager, Lisa, was in her office. Door half open. I knocked once. "Do you have a minute?" She looked up. Something in my face must have told her this wasn't casual. "Come in," she said. I closed the door behind me, sat down, and told her everything. The breakup, the therapy cancellation, the messages, the escalation, and now, the phone call, the safety concern, the implication. I didn't rush, didn't dramatize, just laid it out, piece by piece, clear, documented, controlled. Lisa didn't interrupt. She just listened, arms crossed loosely, expression unreadable. But there was something in her eyes, recognition, understanding. Psst. When I finished, there was a moment of silence. Then she leaned forward slightly. "We don't take anonymous claims about employee mental health seriously," she said firmly. Relief hit me. Not overwhelming, but enough to loosen something in my chest. She continued, "And any further calls like that will be documented as harassment." I nodded. "Thank you." She studied me for a second longer. Then her tone softened, just slightly. "I served 8 years," she said. "Navy." I blinked. "Didn't expect that." "I know what it takes to keep showing up after that," she added. "What you're doing, that's strength." That almost broke me. Almost. But I held it together. Just nodded again. "Thank you," I said quietly. I could have stopped there. And part of me wanted to. Because technically, no damage had been done. The call hadn't reached my supervisor. My job was safe. My reputation intact. But he had tried. And that mattered. That night, I called Dr. Harris. Not for an emergency session. For advice. I told her what happened. Every detail. The call. The implication. The pattern. She was quiet for a moment. Then she said something I hadn't expected. "There's a patient advocacy office through the VA," she said. "They handle cases where outside interference impacts treatment." I frowned slightly. "Interference?" "Yes," she said. "Canceling your appointment without consent. Attempting to weaponize your mental health. This might qualify as a pattern." A pattern. That word stayed with me, because that's what this was. Not random. Not emotional. A pattern. The next day, I made the call. The woman on the other end was calm, efficient, professional. She took notes as I spoke, asked precise questions. Dates, times, documentation. When I finished, she said, "Unauthorized cancellation of mental health appointments is something we track," she explained. "You're not the first case." That hit harder than I expected. Not the first. Meaning this wasn't rare. Meaning this happens.
Hey.
She updated my file immediately, added a security layer. From that point forward, no one could cancel my appointments without a verbal password. Simple, effective, too late for what had already happened, but enough to make sure it never happened again. Then she said something else. "There's a legal aid program for veterans," she added. "Based on what you've described, this may meet the threshold for harassment." Legal. That word carried weight. I hesitated, not because I doubted her, but because escalation changes things, makes them real in a different way. Permanent. Okay, I said finally. Let's do it. The attorney called me that afternoon. Straightforward. No nonsense. He asked for everything. Texts, call logs, timeline. I sent it all. The cancellation message, the toughen up text, the laughing emoji, the workplace call report, the conversations, the visits, even the moment his friend called my PTSD baggage in my own home. All of it, laid out, structured, clear. 2 days later, he sent the letter. Not vague, not threatening for effect. Precise, itemized, legal language that turned behavior into consequences. It outlined everything. The interference with medical care, the workplace contact, the repeated harassment. And at the end, a line that mattered. Any further contact would result in a formal petition for a protective order. 40 minutes after it was delivered, my phone rang. Unknown number. I answered without thinking. "Hello?" Her voice came sharp and immediate. Daniel's mother. "You're really going to threaten him with legal action over what?" she snapped. "A canceled appointment?" I didn't respond. Not right away. She continued. "You people are so dramatic. You go overseas, come back broken, and expect the whole world to adjust." I hung up. Mid-sentence. No warning. Then I took a screenshot of the call log and sent it to the attorney. He sent another letter, this one addressed to her. Same language, same consequences. After that, silence. But Daniel wasn't done. Not quite. He tried one last angle. My best friend. Marcus and I had served together. Same unit, same deployment. He had been there for everything. Even the first therapy appointment, the one I almost didn't go to. Daniel met him for coffee. Under the pretense of checking in, 45 minutes later, Marcus called me. I answered. "Hey," I said. He didn't greet me, just laughed. A real laugh. "Your ex just tried to recruit me," he said. I leaned back against the wall. "Recruit you?" "Yeah," he said. "Apparently you're spiraling. Need real help, not VA nonsense." I closed my eyes. Of course. "What did you say?" I asked. There was a pause. Then, I told him the only thing you needed help with was getting away from him. I let out a breath I didn't realize I'd been holding. And for the first time in weeks, I laughed. Not forced, not polite, real. "Good," I said. "Yeah," Marcus replied. "You handled it." After that, it stopped. No more calls, no more messages, no more attempts. Just quiet. And for the first time since everything began, it wasn't the heavy kind. It wasn't the kind that waits for the next impact. It was peace, the kind you earn. 5 weeks later, everything was quiet. Not the fragile kind of quiet that makes you brace for the next disruption. Not the kind that comes with tension underneath it. This was different. This was settled. Daniel stopped contacting me completely. No calls, no texts, no accidental drive-bys, no messages through mutual friends. Nothing. My attorney said that usually meant one thing. Reality had finally caught up with him. Because when consequences become real, when they're no longer emotional, no longer arguable, no longer something you can talk your way out of, people change their behavior very quickly. That didn't mean he didn't try one last time. He did, just not in the way I expected. A letter, handwritten, 3 pages, mailed to my apartment like we were living in a different decade. I opened it at the kitchen counter. Read it once, then folded it back along the crease like it had never been opened. The content wasn't surprising. It never is.
Nice.
He said he was sorry, but not for what he did. Just sorry things turned out this way. He said I had overreacted, that I had thrown away something beautiful, that he had only been trying to help me. He said therapy had changed me, that I had started choosing a stranger in an office over the person who loved me. A stranger. I stood there for a moment holding the paper, thinking about that. 3 years. 3 years of someone helping me rebuild my mind piece by piece, and he reduced it to a stranger. The last paragraph was almost impressive, in a way that made you pause just to appreciate the audacity. He said, if I ever changed my mind, he would be willing to take me back. But there would need to be some changes. I would need to switch therapists, preferably to a female one, because he wasn't comfortable with me sharing intimate details with another man. Even at the end, even after everything, he was still trying to control it. I didn't respond. I didn't need to. I put the letter in a folder, the same folder that held everything else. The texts, the screenshots, the documentation. Then I closed it and moved on. The financial aftermath settled into something manageable. About $4,000 total, all things considered. Deposits, legal fees beyond the pro bono coverage, lock changes, random shared subscriptions that needed to be canceled. Not nothing, but not devastating. I picked up extra shifts, cut back on unnecessary spending. A lot of rice, a lot of chicken. But 2 months later, I was stable again. The social fallout was quieter, but more complicated.
Honey.
I lost a few people, not close ones. Peripheral friendships, the kind that don't survive conflicting narratives. 2 of them reached out later, after they heard the full story. Apologized, said they hadn't known. I didn't reconnect, not out of anger, just clarity. The people who matter don't need to be convinced. The ones who stayed, those are the ones I built forward with. Marcus, a couple coworkers, and my sister. She called me every other day for a month. Never once said, I told you so, even though she could have. She had never liked Daniel. Said it was something about the way he listened, like he was always waiting for his turn to speak. I understand that now. His father called once, about 2 weeks after everything settled.
Nighttime.
I answered, out of respect. I heard what happened, he said, straight to the point. I don't agree with what he did. I leaned against the wall, phone pressed to my ear. Thank you, I said. He exhaled slowly. I told his mother to stop contacting you, he added. She didn't listen. A small pause. I'm glad something did. We didn't say much else. We didn't need to. Some conversations aren't about fixing anything. They're just about acknowledging what's already broken. After that, I never heard from any of them again. And that was okay. Therapy changed after that. Not in structure, not in schedule. Still every other Tuesday. Still the same beige chair. Still the same quiet room. But something inside me shifted. For the first time, we weren't just working on survival. We were working on understanding. Dr. Harris and I spent weeks unpacking the relationship. Not just the ending, the pattern, how I had ignored the early signs, because the good parts felt so good. How I had explained away the comments, because I wanted to believe they came from care. How I had been so grateful someone accepted my PTSD that I didn't notice he was trying to erase it. That one hit the hardest. She called it something I hadn't heard before, a gratitude trap. When you feel so lucky to be accepted that you tolerate being diminished. I sat with that for a long time, because it was true. I had spent so much time being thankful someone could love me that I forgot to ask if they respected me. We're still working on that. Probably will be for a while. Work stabilized, then improved. I got a raise. Not huge, but enough. My supervisor said it was based on performance reviews from before everything happened. Consistency, reliability, leadership. Things I had built quietly, while everything else felt uncertain. I used the extra money to rebuild my savings, slowly, deliberately. The VA followed up too. They told me my case had been added to a broader review, that unauthorized cancellations were more common than they should be. They were changing the system, adding verification, safeguards. What happened to me wasn't just a one-off. And now, it might not happen to someone else. That mattered more than I expected. About a week ago, I was sitting in that same chair, same office, same soft hum of the air conditioner. We were wrapping up the session, and I said, I think I'm doing okay. Dr. Harris looked at me over her glasses, studied me for a second, then nodded. You are, she said. You really are. Then she added, do you know what I remember most about the day you ended the engagement? I tilted my head slightly. What? You didn't ask me if it was the right decision. I went still. You told me it was, she continued. That was the first time you trusted yourself completely. I didn't respond right away. because she was right.
betrayals.
For a long time, I didn't trust my own judgment. Not because I was weak, not because I was broken, but because trauma makes you question everything, even yourself. And that day, I didn't question it. I just knew. Not out of anger, not out of fear, but out of something stronger. Self-respect. I'm single now, 32, living alone in an apartment that gets a little too quiet sometimes. I still have bad nights, still flinch at loud sounds, still avoid certain movies. But every other Tuesday at 4:30 p.m., I sit in that chair and I do the work. Not because I'm broken, but because I'm worth fixing. And no one is ever taking that from me again.